Zionist organization. I'm sorry, World Jewish Congress. Jeffrey, I just know you as Jeffrey Wiesenfeld because he's one of the greatest outspoken people that we have in our midst. So Jeffrey, take it away.
It is absolutely true that bipartisan support is essential in the United States to assist in the continued survival of the State of Israel. That's a truism. It's a truth. We know that. And we have great elected officials who represent us in this area in particular. This is where I have no qualm with anybody, none whatsoever. But when Rory spoke just now about justice for the Jewish people, we have to understand what that means precisely. It means that we have to be treated by the body politic the same way any other minority group would be respected. Absolutely. Just because we're more polite doesn't mean we should be ignored. Now, what happened, let's be very honest with each other. We're amongst family. What happened in New Zealand is an atrocity against innocent people. Now, our sages tell us, because some people would say, let's be honest with each other, we don't know how they feel about us. But our sages tell us that we assume the goodness of every human being until and unless proven otherwise. Ilan Omar has proven otherwise. Well, I recall my wife and I, years ago, attended a simcha at Park East Synagogue where Rabbi Arthur spoke about the Parsha, and his message that day made no sense to me. He says, but remember, the Parsha reminds us, he said, that in all of our centuries in the diaspora, wherever we went, and we did have occasionally some good periods of time in different parts of the diaspora, but what we learned from our history is that it never lasts forever. God forbid it should end in this country. There is a pattern that we must recognize. This didn't start yesterday. It started 30 years ago with people who have said terrible things about us who are in public life. We saw terrible things at political conventions. We see Congress members who take secret pictures and a former president with Louis Farrakhan. What would happen if an American not of that persuasion took pictures with David Duke, secret or otherwise? Would that be acceptable to the public?
No.
Why should we Jews be treated any differently? It's not appropriate. It's outrageous. And at the time last month of the burial of an American musical icon, another former president sits on the dais with Louis Farrakhan. It's not acceptable.
No.
And another member of Congress, 2 years ago sat on a dais with Louis Farrakhan in honor of President Rouhani, who with his religious leaders plot genocide against the Jewish people. Very appropriate to mention that today, 3 days before Purim. What we are saying is we want to be treated like everybody else. You respect us. This was an issue about anti-Semitism. You don't create a kitchen sink resolution, which means nothing. It is an outrage. It is an outrage, and it's not acceptable. We love our elected officials, but the fact of the matter is it's a shame. 28 some odd members of the United States Congress couldn't get together and be a stronger force than three racists who now dominate the media in Congress. They should dominate. We have 28 Jewish members of Congress. We have a Jewish United States Senator. Yes, they represent us well, but they won't go the extra mile to say we want to be treated like everybody else. We will not be slighted. We will not be insulted. Because let's be honest, we know the truth. No matter what happens, the majority of Jews are going to be Democrats. Okay, it's a given, we know it. They're still voting for FDR. We understand. We understand. But you must demand to be treated, and your support must be reciprocated. Now, I want to read to you a letter Some of you may know Mayor Ed Koch, who was a great Jew, someone I admired, who was a mentor to me. I don't know how many of you have ever seen, you can see it online, Mayor Koch's tombstone. What Mayor Koch wrote on his tombstone, aside from the Shema prayer, on Ed Koch's tombstone, he wrote, "I am a Jew, my mother was a Jew, my father was a Jew." Those were the last words, and he writes it on his tombstone, last words of Daniel Pearl as he was beheaded by an Islamic terrorist. He wanted to send a message about terrorism. And so I read to you a letter from Dr. Judah Pearl, the father of Daniel Pearl. A brief excerpt. As president of the Daniel Pearl Foundation and a lifelong Democrat, I urge Speaker Nancy Pelosi to act boldly and decisively on Representative Ilhan Omar's anti-Semitic bigotry. Our late son, Daniel Pearl, was not an Islamophobe. He was not a foreign agent, nor was he a traitor in Benjamins. He was a principled American journalist, a champion of truth, and a relentless peace seeker who was murdered for being a Jew and a lover of Israel. I plead with Speaker Pelosi to rid the House of Representatives of this new form of bigotry directed against Jews and lovers of Israel. And the hateful words pronounced by Representative Ilhan Omar will continue to haunt and poison the future of American Jewry. However, we are concerned not merely with the harsh consequences of those words, but with the obsessive hatred which produced them. The ultimate purpose for which they have been enunciated, to erode American support for the state of Israel, the miracle which symbolizes Jewish history and Jewish aspirations. That's all we want, to be treated like everyone else.
Omar must go! 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 Omar must go!
Okay, just a alert from the publisher of the Queen's Jewish Link.